Luckily, there were no other cars on the road. Just narrow and windy, with nothing but dirt and gravel to slow her down. And trees. Lots and lots of trees. Big ones, little ones, enormous ones with trunks the size of water towers. She skidded off the road onto the shoulder and on a direct course with a pothole the size of the Death Star. There was a large white oak, its gnarled lurk swaying in the wind with the force of a batter swinging for a home run. Ignoring her rising panic, Piper reached beside her for the e-brake and, channeling the tough girl attitude that had helped her survive her teen years, she lifted the lever, smooth and steady. Posh released a pop sound, followed by the rhythmic thumping that beat hard in tempo with her heart. The car slowly decelerated, rolling off the road, finally coming to a stop inches from the oak tree, so close the leaves scratched back and forth across the hood. She closed her eyes and dropped her forehead against the steering wheel, no longer judging Snow White for her hysterical reaction to trees. Allowing exactly 1 minute to collect herself, she took in a deep breath. It took an additional 3 for her hands to stop shaking, but that was from frustration. At least, that was the story she was sticking to. Ignoring the stench of singed rubber and desperation filling the cab, she popped the hood, then opened the door. Even before she got out of the car, she knew the power steering was shot. Confirming her suspicions, she let out an impatient sigh and made her way to the car's trunk. She grabbed the tire iron, because the belt was the least of her problems. Posh was sporting a blown-back tire, and, while she could technically drive the last mile uphill without power steering, no amount of tenacity could make up for a flat tire. As if her day wasn't challenging enough, fate sent in her official RSVP to the party, by way of a streak of lightning which cut through the inky dusk sky. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. The ground rumbled under the boom of thunder. The wind picked up, plastering her dress against her legs and whipping her hair around. "Is that all you got?" Piper hollered, waving the tire iron at the sky, which was turning different shades of fury and brimstone. Suddenly, it stopped, and an eerie stillness moved in, surrounding her as static crackled in the evening air. Thunder and lightning she could handle. It was the quiet before the storm that was the most unsettling. Knowing it was only a matter of time before the drops began to fall, she grabbed the tire iron and went to work on the lug nuts. 10 minutes, 3 grease stains, and a few choice words later, she succeeded in loosening half. The other half were stubborn little assholes that wouldn't budge. "I'm small, but I'm scrappy," she said, shucking her impractical shoes to stand on the tire iron. She gave a few bounces, willing it to budge, when another streak of lightning reached across the darkening sky, exploding so close to her car that every hair on her body became electrified. "Lightning doesn't scare me!" she shouted over the rustling trees. Neither did fate. Piper had taken on tougher opponents and survived to tell the story. Plus, fear clashed with the ballbuster vibes she'd worked so hard to perfect. Not to mention, too much was riding on tonight for anything to go awry. Not only was the beautiful bride Piper's new boss, but her fiancé was also an agent to the stars. So the guest list read like a who's who in Portland, the exact kind of people Piper usually went out of her way to avoid. However, circumstances had changed, and Piper needed to adapt. So she went back to work on the flat. Within minutes, stray strands of hair clung to her skin, and smudges of brake fluid covered the hem of her dress. She was an utter mess, and no closer to changing her tire. Refusing to give up, she removed her blazer and placed it gently inside the car, then propped her knee against the fender and shoved. Up and down and back and forth. She worked the tire iron as if more than just her pride depended on it. And she was making headway, creating a good rhythm for herself, when she heard a loud sound rip through the air. "Shit!" She shot up, her hands going to